On our third wedding anniversary, 5 months pregnant, I walked in on my husband, Nathaniel, and a delicate-looking young woman. He got up slowly, methodically, and sent the girl away. His gaze swept over my belly, his eyes filled with absolute conviction and arrogance. It won't happen again. Isabel, don't make a fuss over this. The important thing is to give birth to the child safely. I stared at him, completely lost. In that moment, it was as if I had never known the man who slept beside me every night. Later, while he was out, I packed my bags, hired people to smash our wedding photos, and had them hack and destroy everything in the house before leaving for good. He gritted his teeth and told a friend, "I'd like to see if Isabel is still this tough when she's giving birth." He also said, "She's 30, and the baby is over 5 months along. She's not going to get rid of it, is she?" As he wished, I did contact him, right after I was given the induction shot for an abortion, so he could be with me and watch this child slowly die. 10 years of knowing each other, 3 years of marriage. In the end, we couldn't even part ways peacefully. Then let's have mutual destruction. Well, burn it all to the ground. My pregnant belly was already obvious as I stood rigidly at the bedroom door. The cake I had stood in line for over an hour to buy had fallen to the floor, shattered into pieces, just like our marriage. Heated moans and gasps echoed from within the room. The low, panting male voice confirmed my fears. Still, refusing to believe it, I pushed the door open, startled by the sound. The two of them finally broke apart. The young woman, flustered, pulled at the sheets to cover the marks on her body. The thick, humid scent of them hit my face, filling the room until I could barely breathe. It was late summer, and the temperature was still high. My clothes were nearly soaked with sweat from waiting in line for the cake. Yet now, a chill ran through my body, an indescribable cold seeping out from the depths of my heart. My mind went blank, and I numbly reached out to turn on the light. The warm, orange glow illuminated a face that was both familiar and strange. Nathaniel's expression was unreadable as he casually reached for a white shirt and slipped it on. A wave of violent nausea rose from my stomach, and I felt unsteady on my feet. After taking a few pictures with my phone, I turned and sat silently on the sofa. After sending the girl away, Nathaniel rose calmly. I couldn't name the feeling. A whirlwind of emotions tore me apart in those few short moments. I didn't know what I was waiting for, or how I should react. I had never imagined something so dramatic would happen to me. I stared blankly at my swollen belly. Perhaps the baby could sense it too. It kicked me gently a few times. Maybe it was because I was still holding my phone, or because I hadn't said a single word. Nathaniel was the one who lost his temper first, slipping on his slippers. He kicked over the living room trash can and demanded impatiently, "Haven't you taken enough pictures? Should I call a few more women over so you can get your fill?" I looked up at his snarling, mocking face. Finally, I managed to force out a few words. "Nathaniel, is that what you want to say to me right now?" He froze, silent for a long time. I didn't know what to do, what I could do, but I knew that every second I stayed here was agony. My first instinct was to get out, to leave, but before I reached the door, he dragged me back to the sofa. He was so strong that if the sofa hadn't been there, I would have crashed to the floor. A dull pain throbbed in my abdomen. My face went pale as I cradled my belly. A flicker of panic finally crossed his face. He stammered, "I didn't mean to. It's just, you're my wife. Your first thought was to take pictures as evidence. Aren't you sad at all? Or do you just not care about me that much?" How was I supposed to show that I was sad? By screaming and tearing at the other woman, by interrogating him through sobs, begging him to stay. Would that prove I loved him? He cheated on me in the home I had built, in our bedroom, on the bed where we held each other every night, and in his eyes. I didn't even have the right to collect evidence. He used it to judge me, to claim my motive was a lack of love. I almost laughed. His sophistry made it sound as if he were the one who had been wronged. I looked at him, and his dark eyes truly held a wounded expression. He knelt down, a hint of apology in his voice. "Isabel, I was just drunk today. I swear. I'm sorry. I was being an ass. Don't let it upset the baby." So my husband was a brilliant actor. So good that it was as if the snarling man who acted like I couldn't touch him wasn't him at all. It was laughable. After knowing him for 10 years and being married for 3, my subconscious reaction was not to provoke him. With my pregnant belly, I couldn't afford the consequences if he became violent. I dug my nails into my palm, suppressing the rage that threatened to burst from my chest. I leaned back on the sofa, closed my eyes, and let the tears fall, feigning helplessness. He was pleased with my submission. He reached for my hand, and I recoiled in disgust. He didn't seem to mind, becoming even more certain that with the pregnancy and my resignation from work, I wouldn't dare do anything. A phone call summoned him away. He hesitated, trying to reschedule. I watched his silhouette on the balcony, feeling sick just sharing the same space with him, but the more I showed it, the harder it would be to get away. He was a deeply suspicious person. I had to put on a show to get him to leave. With a pregnancy this far along, my safety was at risk. When he turned back, I covered my face and burst into loud sobs. Nathaniel looked back, stunned. I was inconsolable, curled up on the sofa, perhaps because I had never lost control like this in front of him before. He came over, flustered, and gently patted my back. "Isabel, you're pregnant. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Please stop crying, for the baby's sake." As if he cared so much about this child. Did a loving father let the mother of his child witness such a disgusting scene? I looked up, my face streaked with tears. "Why, what did I do wrong for you to treat me this way?" He pulled me into an embrace. I suppressed my revulsion, letting him hold me like a wooden doll. "You did nothing wrong. It's my fault. It will never happen again. Isabel." As he spoke, he actually started to cry. His tears were as disgusting as he was. I subtly pulled away from him and looked down at my belly with a feigned look of resignation. "Nathaniel, don't let there be a next time." He tried to wipe my tears, but I moved away. The phone rang again, and my irritation peaked. This time, he was finally convinced that I would endure this for the sake of the child and our years together. He gave me an apologetic look, transferred a sum of money to my account, and told me to buy whatever I wanted. He promised to come back and be with me after he finished his work. I sat on the sofa, motionless, looking as if my heart had died. A flash of guilt crossed his eyes, but the phone rang again, insistent as a funeral bell. He had to go. The moment the door closed, I wiped my tears away. I went to the window and confirmed his car had left the garage. Then, I went to the bedroom, gathered my important documents, and packed a small bag. As I left the bedroom, I saw the large wedding photo on the wall. The woman in the picture was smiling so happily, so blindingly. How could she have imagined this day? I gave the frame a gentle push. Like our fragile marriage, it crashed to the floor and shattered. I walked from the bedroom to the living room. On the balcony were the succulents and flowers I had planted. From the sofa and curtains to the dining table and every single floor tile, I had chosen and bought them myself. Before today, I had been planning to replace the hairdryer in the bathroom. I had even ordered a small sofa for the balcony, with a matching round wooden table. I had picked out several tablecloth patterns, all of which Nathaniel had liked. I imagined that when the weather cooled, we could sit there, drink tea, read, and bask in the sun. I always thought that would be a blissful scene, but that day would never come. Just because I changed my plans and came home a little early, I discovered that the perfect, happy life I thought I had was nothing but a bubble rising from the sea, vanishing the moment the sun touched it. Nathaniel had held me countless times, telling me that because of me, this house finally felt like a home. He said he was grateful I had given him the home he always wanted, but now, he was the one who had destroyed it all with his own hands. I found 2 demolition workers online and had them smash everything in the apartment to pieces, along with the past we shared. I hailed a taxi with my suitcase. When the driver asked where I was going, I was at a loss for words. Where? It felt like there was nowhere to go. My best friend wasn't in the city, and my other friends were either mutual friends with Nathaniel or just acquaintances. But even if I had nowhere to go, I had to move forward. Nathaniel's arrogant, confident expression was seared into my mind. If I went back, it would be no different from murdering myself. I searched online for a hotel in the opposite direction from my home and checked in. Lying on the hotel bed, my mind was a blank slate. Then, all the emotions came rushing back. I don't know how much time passed before the baby's kick brought me back to my senses. At this point, there were no more tears. I still had a growing child inside me. I hadn't eaten all day. I opened my phone to a friend request from a woman with a cartoon cat profile picture. I didn't even have to guess who it was. Thinking of what I had to do next, I accepted. After all, besides what I had seen today, I knew nothing. Her first message was, "Isabel, I'm sorry. Nathaniel and I never meant to hurt you." I didn't reply, just watched her perform. She sent a barrage of useless nonsense: how much she liked Nathaniel, how good he was to her, how he had personally signed a contract with her and introduced her to clients when her boss was berating her and she was about to be fired. She said she never wanted to break up a relationship, but you can't control who you fall for. She even said Nathaniel was pitiful, that he was suffering every day. Pitiful, for what? Because he couldn't have his affair openly and had to deal with his pregnant wife. Suffering, how? Did it drive him insane? If he had fallen for someone else, couldn't he have said so earlier? Why drag me to this point? To the point where I was 30, pregnant, and trapped. I couldn't read anymore. The messages were more nauseating than my morning sickness. I muted the chat and went to the bathroom to throw up. It was all acid. My stomach churned, so I ordered some bland takeout. I had no appetite, but the baby was restless, kicking me incessantly. A wave of sadness washed over me. It wanted to live, didn't it? It was the child I had so eagerly anticipated. I forced myself to swallow some food. Finally, it stopped kicking. It had always been a good baby. When I first felt it move, I would gently poke my belly and complain, "Baby, you're kicking mommy a bit too hard," and it would immediately quiet down, just like today. After I ate, I gently stroked my belly, and it calmed down, but it didn't know, as its mother, swallowed that food. The thought in my mind was when to have it aborted. I sat in the hotel room from dusk till dawn. The woman in my chat sent more photos and screenshots. Some of the dates were glaringly painful. Since I got pregnant, Nathaniel had only accompanied me to one prenatal checkup. I felt for him, for how hard he worked. I didn't want to be demanding or become a burden. I truly wanted to build a good life with him. It was all just my own wishful thinking. On March 15th, my first checkup, he left in a hurry right after we left the hospital, saying a client needed him. I suspected nothing. The early spring weather was cold, and he let me take the car. A chilly rain fell, and I watched it seep into his empty collar. I instinctively took off my own scarf and wrapped it around his neck. "Nathaniel, you're always choosing style over warmth. Look at this weather," I chided. He didn't seem to hear me, just rushed me into the car, then ran to the roadside, hailed a cab, and sped off. I sat there, watching his car disappear. Nathaniel was always so calm and composed. That was the first time I'd seen him in such a rush. I thought he was just afraid of being late for work, that he was pushing himself too hard for me and the baby. My heart was a mix of sweetness and longing. I looked down at my still flat belly, imagining what kind of father he would be, how happy our little family would be. How could I have known he was rushing to see another woman? Pregnancy had made me sensitive to certain smells. Nathaniel loved seafood congee. That night, fighting off nausea, I made it for him. I waited and waited. The congee went from hot to cold, then hot again, then cold again. All I got was a text. "Honey, go to sleep. Something came up. I might not be back until tomorrow." Now, through the messages from another woman, I knew he had been in such a hurry that day to celebrate her birthday. No wonder he didn't reply until the next day. In the photo, the man who never ate spicy food was indulging the young woman across from him with a table full of Hunan cuisine. When he came home, he complained to me about his stomachache. What had he told me? That had upset his stomach entertaining a client. I had felt so sorry for him, frantically searching for medicine, cursing the client. How ironic. I was a fool, played for a fool in the palm of his hand. The girl even sent me a video from that night. In a soft, delicate voice message, she said, "I'm sorry, Isabel. I know that was the day of your checkup. I've wanted to end this for a long time. I admit I'm not a good person, but I'm contacting you now because I don't want to be a bad person any longer." My hand could barely hold the phone steady. In the video, he was holding a large bouquet of flowers, a pile of gifts on the table, his eyes sparkling as he wished her a happy birthday. At the end of the video, in the trash can under the table, was a khaki plaid scarf, carelessly thrown away. I recognized it instantly. It was the one I had taken from my neck and put on him that afternoon. The scarf, and my heart, had been thrown away like trash. Tears blurred the screen. I wiped and wiped, but they wouldn't stop. I touched my face. It was soaked. Crying was useless. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, forcing myself to calm down. When I came back, the messages were still coming. I scrolled through them, my face blank. April 3rd, the second checkup. I went alone, not wanting to disturb his work. Most of the pregnant women in the clinic had someone with them. It was unsettling to be there by myself, afraid of hearing bad news. No woman wants to be alone at a time like that. But I convinced myself that Nathaniel was working hard for our family, that I should be understanding. Reality slapped me in the face, showing me how ridiculous and pathetic a woman's one-sided devotion could be. While I was at my checkup alone, he was in another woman's apartment, in her bed, cooking for her, editing her work reports. The young girl flaunted it on her social media. "I'm always causing trouble for you. What to do? I feel a little guilty. It's all your fault for spoiling me so much I can't do anything," he commented. "Silly girl, if you're always like this, how can I not worry?" She replied, "Then it'll just have to keep being like this. If you're not worried, what about me?" Reading on, I felt my heart bleeding. The most ironic part was that at the time, I had even reflected on whether his frequent absences were due to work stress. I worried about his health. On a rare night he stayed home. I looked at the dark circles under his eyes with pity, rubbing his temples and teasing. Nathaniel, are you having some kind of prenatal anxiety? Our family isn't struggling that badly, is it? He looked up at me, surprised. I leaned in, kissed his cheek, and sat beside him, taking his hand and lacing our fingers together. Nathaniel, we're a team now, I said guiltily. I won't let the burden of providing for our family fall entirely on you. Once the baby is born and a little older, I can work too. Don't wear yourself out. He was silent. Seeing his dazed expression, I couldn't help but ruffle his hair. I also have my own little savings. A flicker of emotion crossed his eyes. He pulled me into his arms, resting his head on my shoulder. I stroked his coarse hair and said in a mock-angry tone, surprised, aren't you? Humph. Even though I told you, you're not allowed to touch it. He looked up, and our eyes met. His gaze was impossibly gentle. I looked down and said softly, but if we really run into trouble, you can have a little. Looking back now, what was he thinking as he looked at me then? Did he feel even a shred of pity for his pregnant wife? Or was he marveling at his own acting skills, at how thoroughly he had deceived me? Or was he laughing at my sentimentality, trying to figure out how to get rid of me so he could go to that young girl? Was he thinking about what to get her, where to take her, how to advance her career? Or was his mind filled with desire for her young, tender body, and all this was just a means to please her, just as he had done with me 10 years ago? I scrolled through the chat history. Eventually, I started to despise myself. Why did I waste my entire youth on a person like this? Why did I only see the truth when it all came crashing down? How could I have trusted this man with my entire being? The disgust turned to hatred. I hated his broken promises, his betrayal, his deceit. I hated how he had trampled on my dignity, my emotions, my love. He made me feel like a terrible, stupid, worthless person, to have given everything and received this in return. I stayed in that hotel room for 3 whole days, sleeping in a daze. Eventually, I could barely feel the baby kicking inside me. I was just so tired. I forced myself to get up, but I barely had the strength to leave the room, until one morning, a ray of sunlight pierced through a gap in the curtains and fell on my face. I got up and pulled the curtains open. It was a beautiful day. A heavy rain had fallen overnight, and the air smelled of wet earth. People were bustling on the streets below. Life had to go on. Some things you can run from, some you can't. I pushed myself up, ready to leave the room. Just then, a video call came from my best friend, Ava. I didn't want her to see how haggard I looked, so I rejected it. But a frantic voice message followed. Isabel, what's wrong? I dreamed you were crying last night. Are you okay? Why aren't you answering my video call? I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. All the tears I hadn't shed over the past few days came pouring out. Ava booked the earliest flight and was by my side that afternoon. You can't go through something this big alone, she said. Suddenly, life didn't seem so bitter. She took my phone, afraid my emotional state would lead me to do something rash. Ava was pursuing her doctorate in medical science. She contacted a friend in the field who recommended a reliable doctor, and we went for a checkup. Waiting for the results, I felt a wave of fear. Why had I let my emotions get the better of me and almost forgotten something so important? Thankfully, I was physically fine. After finishing his work that night, Nathaniel rushed home. Logically, he told himself that Isabel, so heavily pregnant, couldn't have done much, but a sense of unease gnawed at him. Her grief-stricken, silently weeping face flashed through his mind, followed by the image of her complete breakdown. She had always been so strong, so resilient. When they first met, she was a high school girl who had dared to threaten her cheating father with a knife to force a divorce. For years, he had thought she could get by perfectly fine without anyone. It was only today, seeing her cry like that he realized she could be hurt too. He felt a pang of regret, but then immediately started making excuses for himself. It wasn't entirely his fault. If she had been a little more delicate, a little more dependent on him, would he have craved the gentle affection of someone else? Allison had come to his office, crying pitifully as always. What about the pictures Isabel took? Shed asked. My life is ruined. You have to take responsibility for me. Nathaniel was at his wit's end. You want me to take responsibility? Who's going to take responsibility for me? If you hadn't insisted on going to my house, would any of this have happened? What do you mean, Nathaniel? Are you saying I raped you? Did I have the password to your house? Did I let myself into your bedroom? Are you blaming this all on me now? So the sweet, young woman could have such a venomous side. He thought of Isabel again. She was strong-willed, but she had class. She would make a clean break, not create such an ugly mess. A clean break. The thought sent a shiver of dread through him. He forgot about his argument with Allison and sped home. He had wanted to buy her a bouquet of flowers on the way. He remembered that her favorite roses were pink lynches. She loved to fill vases with delicate pink flowers, put on soothing music, and curl up on the sofa to read, but he was too panicked. Like so many times before, he told himself he would make it up to her next time. He hadn't bought her flowers in a long time because of Allison's demands. He had rationalized that they were an old married couple and didn't need such things anymore, but after she had caught him, even though a nasty part of him thought she couldn't do much with her big belly, deep down, he didn't want the chasm between them to grow too deep. They had been together for so many years. She was a habit. He thought that if he just placated her a little, this would blow over. He didn't know there would be no next time. She would never accept his flowers again. It was late, and the neighborhood was quiet. He looked up instinctively. For the first time, the light that was always on for him was dark. Guilt and fear washed over him. He opened the door, refusing to give up hope. The moment he turned on the light, he saw that the woman who always sat quietly on the sofa, reading and waiting for him, was gone. All that remained was a scene of utter devastation. Everything had been smashed to smithereens. The familiar, warm, clean, bright home was gone. For the first time, Nathaniel felt helpless. He frantically dialed Isabel's number. No answer. He searched online to see what would happen if a blocked number called. Thankfully, she hadn't blocked him. He felt a little calmer. He thought she was just throwing a tantrum. At first, he tried patiently to coax her, but no matter what he sent, it was met with silence. He grew angry, thinking, let's see how long Isabel can keep this up. Will she be too stubborn to call him when she goes into labor? The house was uninhabitable. He went to the bedroom to get a change of clothes. At the door, he saw the ice cream cake in the corner. It was a melted, shattered mess. Only the packaging reminded him that it was from his favorite shop, the one he rarely went to because the line was always so long. It was 31 degrees today. How long had Isabel, with her pregnant belly, waited in line? How had she managed to bring it home? He couldn't imagine. On impulse, he squatted down and tasted a bit from the packaging. It was bitter. Was melted ice cream cake supposed to be this bitter? Nathaniel didn't know. The bitterness wasn't from the cake, but from a woman's heart that had been trampled and shattered. For several days, he couldn't reach Isabel. His friend urged him to find her before it was too late. He stubbornly retorted, if Isabel wants to be tough, let her. She's 30 years old, not some reckless girl in her 20s. She hasn't worked in 3 years. The world has changed. Once she's had a taste of hardship, she'll come running back to me. His friend looked at him, silent for a moment, then said, buddy, your wife is heavily pregnant. If something really happens, you won't even have a place to cry. That sentence infuriated Nathaniel. He threw his wine glass at his friend. The man dodged just in time. After that, no one in the room dared to mention it again. Just as Nathaniel had predicted, a few days later, a call from Isabel's number finally came. He felt a small sense of triumph. She couldn't hold out after all. If she had just been reasonable, none of this would have been necessary. But before he could feel completely relieved, he heard Ava's voice on the other end. He was annoyed that Isabel had told her nosy best friend about their problems. He thought, she just won't let it go, will she? I guess I've been too lenient with her. Can't a man make one mistake in his life? He had a whole speech prepared for Isabel, but since it wasn't her, he had to patiently wait to see what they were up to. To his surprise, Ava didn't say a single extra word. She just coldly stated the address of an obstetrics and gynecology hospital and hung up. He stared at his phone, bewildered. The next moment, a thought crashed over him like a tsunami. Isabel, how dare she? It's not that I didn't hesitate. This was the child I had carried for 5 months. How could I be so ruthless? But it was precisely for her sake that I had to be, because her life would have been a reflection of mine. When my father had an affair, my mother forgave him time and again because she was pregnant with me. The result was that once it happens the first time, it will happen again and again. In the end, because I existed, she compromised even more, to the point where she started to resent me. She began to feel that her unhappiness was all my fault. But a child has no choice in being born. If I could have chosen, I would never have wanted my arrival to deepen my mother's suffering. They finally separated when I was in high school. My father, having lost another gamble, drunkenly blamed my mother. When I came home from my evening classes, she was beaten so badly she was barely breathing. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a kitchen knife and went after him. I wasn't afraid to die, I thought. If one of us kills the other, my mother's life will be better. If I died, he would go to jail, and she would be free. If he died, I would go to jail, and she would also be free. But there is a huge difference in strength between a man and a woman. He was shocked when I first cut his arm. Then enraged, he kicked me to the ground. My head hit a cabinet, and blood instantly covered my face, blurring my vision. My head spun, but I wasn't afraid. Someone had to end this. In that moment, more than fear, I felt a surge of adrenaline-fueled hatred. I hated him for being so unreliable, so irresponsible, so selfish and violent. I thought, even if I die by his hand today, I will make him feel pain. I will make him know that even the dullest blade will eventually fall on someone like him. I never let go of the knife, but fate is the best screenwriter. It gave me a third option. Maybe it was my mother's helpless cries, or the noise of our fight, but our neighbor, Nathaniel, was woken up. I had first met him when he transferred to our class and sat behind me. We didn't get along at first. I disliked troublemakers, and he was always getting into fights. He disliked quiet, studious types, so even though we were neighbors, we barely spoke. I didn't even know he lived next door until that night, but because of that incident, we slowly grew closer. He climbed in through the window and stood in front of me, an 18-year-old boy, tall and broad-shouldered, with a strong, athletic build. He subdued my father with little effort. That was the first time I wished I were a man. It was so easy for men to be strong, to fight back. After that night, my parents finally divorced. I should have been happy, but to my surprise, my mother often blamed me afterward. He's your biological father. How could you do that to him? Life has always been this absurd. I used to love my mother so much. I wanted to save her so many times, to shield her, even if I couldn't protect her. If his fists fell on me, I would think, if I'm in pain, she won't be. I loved her so much that I felt guilty for even existing. But in the end, she blamed me. That's your father. How could you be so heartless? Do you have no conscience? Then who was the woman who always told me, if it weren't for you, I would have divorced your father long ago? People change. My mother said she loved me when I was little. I can't remember. I don't know if that was love. All I remember is her tear-stained face, looking at me with a mix of helplessness and hatred. If it weren't for you, why would I be like this? Nathaniel also said he loved me, but he was the one who betrayed me so blatantly, who wounded me so deeply. I would rather say I don't love this child in my womb that much than have it feel a single shred of my regret, then have it doubt itself, feel guilty and tormented. I lay in the hospital bed. After the induction shot, the baby was still moving. My heart ached with a bitter sorrow. I was watching it die. An uncontrollable hatred rose within me. I hated myself for being such a disgusting, venomous mother, and I hated the person who had pushed me to this point even more. Why should I bear this pain alone? Let's all be miserable together. When Nathaniel, pale-faced, rushed into the room, I was lying listlessly on the bed. His voice trembled. Isabel, you're lying to me, right? It's all my fault. Just don't scare me like this. He looked at my belly with fear. With Ava's help, I propped myself up and reached out to him. Nathaniel, touch him. He's still moving. The medication was starting to work, and the movements in my belly grew stronger. He reached out to touch my belly, his eyes instantly turning red, tears welling up. Isabel, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please don't joke about the baby like this. He still thought I was joking. I wished the past few days had been nothing but a nightmare, a cruel prank, but this was reality. I looked at him with malice. There is no next time. Isabel, he stammered. I'm kinder than you, aren't I? After all, you're his father. You should see him off on his final journey. I pressed his hand firmly onto my belly. The baby kicked hard at that exact moment. I suppressed a spasm of pain and looked up at him. Our eyes met. Look, I whispered. He's saying goodbye to you. Nathaniel snatched his hand back as if had been burned. He stared at me, his eyes full of disbelief and hurt. Isabel, you really? His face flushed, his eyes bloodshot, like an out-of-control beast. He lunged forward and wrapped his hands around my neck. What kind of woman are you? What is your heart made of? Why, how could you be so cruel? That's your child too. He interrogated me through tears, but Ava and a nurse pulled him off, watching his tormented, out-of-control state. I wanted to laugh, but as I laughed, tears streamed down my face. I caressed my belly and asked him sarcastically, Nathaniel, you ask me why? That's what I want to ask you. Why? What did I do to deserve this? You remember you're a father now. You remember this is your child now. Then when you were cheating on me behind my back, when you were rolling in bed with another woman, when you were trampling on my heart, Why didn't you remember this child was yours then? Why didn't you save even a sliver of conscience for us? He was held back, his eyes fixed on me, tears streaming down his face. How ridiculous. So he did care about this child after all. Then how could he have been so reckless with me? Nathaniel gradually lost his strength and slumped to the floor. Ava stood protectively in front of me, afraid he would do something drastic. I patted her hand to reassure her. At this point, what was there left to fear? The doctor came in for a routine check. Nathaniel grabbed her arm like a drowning man clutching a straw. Doctor, that's my child too. She has no right to do this to my child. Can you do something? The baby is still moving. It's still alive. Please save him. Save my child. I'll pay any amount of money. Any amount. The doctor, a woman, had been very gentle when she administered the shot. She pulled her arm away from his grasp, her face grim. Decided to be a good father now, have you? Where were you before? Nathaniel's lips moved, but no sound came out. He just sank back into his chair, utterly defeated. The pain in my belly grew more intense. Induction wasn't like a miscarriage. I had to give birth to the child, only it would be stillborn. Ava helped me walk around, gently patting my back to ease the pain. Nathaniel stood by, helpless. He tried to help me, but I grabbed his arm and bit down with all my strength. I hated that I was the only one suffering this pain. Why should he get off so easily? I bit until my mouth was filled with the taste of blood, until I had no strength left. Then I let go. Sweat had soaked my clothes and hair. My belly felt like it was being pierced by 1,000 needles, like someone was methodically slicing me open from the inside. I don't know how long the agony lasted. The doctor came to check me, and after my cervix had softened, I was given a painkiller, which brought some relief. When I felt the baby was about to come, I deliberately called Nathaniel into the bathroom. Blood trickled from between my legs as the child slowly emerged from my body. Nathaniel's face was chalk white with terror. I held on to him, not letting him leave. I wanted him to be just like me, to watch as we became murderers together. In the struggle, the baby was finally delivered. It was a fully formed boy. Nathaniel stared, his eyes glazed, at the stillborn infant in the basin. Then, his breathing became ragged, and he lunged for the toilet, vomiting violently. I stared blankly at the scene. The air was thick with the smell of blood. Below me was the child I had given birth to, dead. Tears fell again. I managed to stand and reached for Nathaniel's arm. He shrank away in terror. I smiled at him. In the mirror, I looked like a demon crawled out of hell, my face ashen, my eyes filled with hatred. I moved closer. You asked me what I could do with my big belly, didn't you? Are you satisfied now? How does it feel to kill your own child with your own hands? He couldn't meet my eyes. The blood that had poured from me had stained his white shirt. My own clothes were covered in it. We were like two beasts that had torn each other apart. Only the blood was all mine. The only one wounded was me. Why? He gasped for breath, then pushed me away and stumbled out of the bathroom, his eyes vacant. My strength gave out, and I started to fall. Ava rushed in just in time to catch me. I watched Nathaniel's devastated figure retreat. In that moment, I wished he would walk out the door and be hit by a car. When I read romance novels, when the heroine miscarried, it was as if nothing had happened. She would be back on her feet, continuing her dramatic entanglement with the hero. But when it happened to me, I felt like half of my life was gone. I lay in that hospital bed for a whole week. My body ached, but my heart was numb. If it weren't for Ava, if it weren't for the hatred that sustained me, I wouldn't have known what to do. Just as I was regaining some strength, Nathaniel's mistress contacted me again. By now, I knew her name was Allison, and I knew how she and my husband had gotten together. I didn't reply to her texts, so she called. Isabel, have you lost your mind? Nathaniel has had a high fever for a week. He's having nightmares every night and can't keep any food down. I held the phone, silent. Her voice grew angrier. Say something. What did you do? Do you have any idea how terrifying he looks right now? Aren't you worried at all? Oh, I finally found my voice. Is he dead? You just want him to die, don't you? Your first wife crusade has driven you mad. Just because someone doesn't love you, they deserve to die. You were pregnant. Don't you want to earn some good karma for your child? If scum like you and him meet a terrible end, my child will be greatly blessed. I hung up and saved the recording. I never wanted to attack another woman. I am a woman. I know how hard it is to get by in this society. I also know that when a man cheats, the man is always the biggest problem. But that doesn't mean I will forgive the scum who disrespected and hurt me. Scum like that deserve to be reincarnated. While I was recovering, I kept busy. I had the messages Allison sent me, and I had saved the surveillance footage from our house before I had it demolished. I didn't know if that was the first time, but I had a record of that one time. I also gathered all of Nathaniel's financial records. He had been quite generous, even buying Allison an apartment. Ava and I found out where she lived, and after a few cartons of cigarettes for the building manager, we had a rough timeline of when she bought it. Combined with the large fund transfers from Nathaniel's account, we had our proof. With the help of a lawyer a friend recommended, I collected and preserved the evidence. When Nathaniel was mostly recovered, my lawyer and I arranged a meeting. He sat slouched on the sofa across from me, a sneer on his face. "Isabel, who are you kidding? It's all about the money, isn't it?" "That's right. A person like you has always loved yourself more than anyone. You even dared to attack your own father with a knife. What won't you do? It's always someone else's fault, isn't it? But why did you have to take it out on the child? You could have just told me. That was my child too." He grew more and more agitated. I just watched him with amused silence. When he finished his tirade, I clapped for him. "What a devoted father," I said with sincere praise. "What a rare, good husband. A man of noble character. It's a wife's great fortune to have a husband like you. Unfortunately, I'm not so lucky. I can't handle such great fortune, so I have to let go quickly, so I don't stand in the way of you making the next woman happy. Isn't that better? You. He was speechless. The divorce was difficult. There was a cooling-off period, and my demand for 2/3 of our marital assets made him furious. He accused me of being greedy and selfish, but that was fine. I had nothing but time. I was very patient. I decided to give him a little appetizer. I sent some of the video evidence to local news media accounts. Allison had taken a year off from school and hadn't graduated yet. Good. I'd be happier if she never did. I also posted on her school's confession pages and other accounts. If she had the guts to provoke me, she shouldn't be afraid of being shamed. One night, I was half asleep when Nathaniel called. "Isabel," he roared, "do you have any idea that Allison tried to kill herself?" "Oh, did she die?" "Isabel, she's only in her 20s. Yes, so young, how pitiful, to fall for such an irresponsible, spineless man and end up in this situation. Her taste in men is as bad as mine." I sighed dramatically, and he hung up. I pulled the covers over my head and went back to sleep. The next morning, I opened the door to find my mother standing there. Nathaniel must have given her my address. I didn't know what to say. I was tired most of the time. I saw she was carrying bags of groceries. Without a word, she walked into the kitchen. I started to break out in a cold sweat again. It had been happening frequently since the induction. I went back to my room and lay down, sleeping until my mother woke me. She had made chicken soup and my favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. I didn't dare look her in the eye. I drank the soup. It was delicious, made from a free-range chicken, but I had no appetite. I forced down a bowl, then felt exhausted again. She got up to clear the dishes. A tear fell on my face. I looked up and met her bloodshot, tear-filled eyes. I couldn't tell if the tears that followed were hers or mine. She held me gently and whispered, "You've suffered so much, Isabel, you stubborn girl. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you were suffering so much? What if something had happened to you? If I had told you, would you have agreed?" I said wearily, closing my eyes. She froze, looking down at me. I didn't meet her gaze and continued, "You forgave that rotten man, didn't you?" "I don't want to." "Don't want what?" "I don't want to regret it one day. I don't want to take my anger out on that child. I don't want it to ever question itself, to hate itself, to feel guilty for existing." With that, I got up and shuffled back to my room. I forced myself to deal with some things with my lawyer. When I came out, there was warm food in the kitchen. I had just taken a few bites when Nathaniel called again. "Isabel, have you no shame? Forcing your elderly mother to cause a scene at my house for money. Is my mom okay? What could happen to her? Your family is crazy. Who would dare mess with you?" I drove to his parents' house and found that my mom had wrecked the place. The property management and the police were there. Nathaniel's face was covered in scratches, and his parents weren't much better off. I didn't say anything, just stood in front of her and took her hand. Her hair was a mess, her clothes torn, and she had injuries. I wanted to take her to a hospital, but she refused. We ended up at a small clinic. It started to rain. She quickly wrapped her only jacket around my head and pulled me under an eave, then ran to a convenience store to buy an umbrella. I asked her why she didn't buy two. "We're almost home," she said reproachfully. "A little rain is nothing for me, but you." I didn't speak, didn't move. She grew more anxious. "For heaven's sake, you can't be out in the cold right now." But she still went back and bought another one. I had been supporting her financially for years, but she saved most of it. working as a cleaner and occasionally helping out that man when he was down on his luck. Back at my apartment, I collapsed on the sofa. She gently wiped the raindrops from my face with a towel. "You've gotten so thin," she murmured. Then, she broke down and sobbed. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Why is your life so hard?" It suddenly occurred to me that she did love me. Her marriage had just worn her down so much she didn't know how to function anymore. Didn't know what a normal mother-daughter or husband-wife relationship was supposed to be like. But she loved me. That was enough. I put my hand on hers and looked into her eyes. "My fate is my own to decide. My life is not hard. No one can break me." I would, time and again, just as I had saved my mother and myself all those years ago, pull myself out of the mud. Allison was discharged from the hospital after just 2 days. I arranged a meeting with her and Nathaniel. The moment she saw me, she became hysterical, looking like she wanted to kill me. Good. When I found her with Nathaniel in my bedroom, I had wanted to kill them both too. She tearfully asked me what it would take for me to leave her alone. I smiled. "I don't know. Your true love here won't even sign the divorce papers. I'm very unhappy, and the more unhappy I am, the more I want to do something. You know us first wives, we're ruthless with innocent little girls like you. Isabel." Nathaniel slammed a cup down and roared my name. I picked up my teacup and threw its contents in his face. "It's not your turn yet. What's the hurry, Nathaniel? Just forget it. Just sign them. Are you going to watch me? You don't understand. It's not what you think. I don't understand. Look at what you've done to my life. Don't you feel any guilt at all?" Nathaniel looked silently at the weeping girl across from him. They had been fighting constantly these past few days, but she was young, and her heart eventually softened. Isabel was too unhinged now. He didn't know what she would do next if he didn't give her what she wanted. Allison's reputation was ruined. She wouldn't be able to graduate, and people were already starting to dig into his own information. He didn't want his company to be affected. Money lost could be earned back, he thought. It's no great loss. I won't be played by Isabel. She doesn't love money. Then why make such an ugly scene? She doesn't love me that much either. Until one day, he received a delivery notification. The sofa and small round table Isabel had ordered had arrived. He stared blankly at the home he hadn't had time to redecorate. The house had been cleaned, but it was eerily empty. The afternoon sun was beautiful, and a breeze blew across the balcony. He couldn't help but imagine that if none of this had happened, Isabel would be sitting there, reading and drinking tea. He sat down on the floor, weary. The phone rang, startling him. It was Allison, telling him she was pregnant. Life had to go on, he thought. He had to look forward. Isabel hadn't lost out. She had gotten so much compensation. But just as he had calmed Allison down and returned to the office, he discovered that Isabel had sold her shares in his company to his nemesis, Gideon. An uncontrollable rage swept over him. He didn't understand why she had to be so merciless. What would it take to satisfy her? Gossip was everywhere in the company. Gideon now had more power than him and made his life difficult at every turn. After weeks of this, he couldn't take it anymore. He sold his remaining shares and cashed out. But Allison was not like Isabel. She had expensive tastes. After just 6 months of living off his savings, he started to feel the strain. When he first started his business, it was Isabel who had handled fundraising. She was cautious by nature, always prioritizing safety and stability. He had sometimes found her approach frustrating, but he couldn't argue with her. She had always been like that. When they were in high school and he was being beaten up by thugs in an alley, she had seen it but had only texted the police, too afraid to even call. He wouldn't have even known if she hadn't mentioned it years later, he thought. She always protects herself first. Allison was different. She admired him, worshipped him, encouraged him, and with that encouragement, he invested most of his money into a pig farm. Allison was pregnant and craved organic pork. Just as they started, the price of pork skyrocketed. He expanded, but then African swine fever hit. Not a single pig in the entire farm survived. He was completely wiped out, and the money he had given Allison was gone too. Shortly after their divorce, Isabel had sued to reclaim it as marital property. It was like she was making withdrawals from a savings account. When it rained, it poured. The child Allison gave birth to had a congenital heart defect and needed expensive surgery. He was drowning in debt. How could he afford it? It was then that Isabel found him. She said that if he was willing to take a drug Ava was developing, one that would make him experience the sensations of childbirth, she would pay. To save the child, he agreed. His belly soon began to swell. He was in agony for a day and a night, his nails digging into his own flesh until they were raw. Isabel just stood there, coldly recording data. He couldn't name the emotion, but he began to understand. No wonder she hated him so much. Giving birth was this painful, let alone killing your own child. Isabel kept her word. She paid for the surgery. Life went on, numbly, until one day Allison ran away with the child, telling him the baby wasn't his. Nathaniel felt the world was absurd. He couldn't accept it, couldn't tell anyone. In a drunken stupor, he instinctively called Isabel from a new number. It was one he'd gotten after Allison left. He had told himself he was starting over, but in the dead of night, he knew he just didn't have the courage to call her. Isabel didn't sound surprised. He asked if she had known. She just laughed. Nathaniel, when I decided to become a homemaker to prepare for pregnancy, I always thought the problem was with me, but for the last checkup, I took you with me. I was pregnant before I even had a chance to show you the results. You're the one who has trouble conceiving. Why did you? He was screaming his questions, but a man's voice came from the other end. His heart stopped. Isabel was with someone else. It was all gone. The call was quickly disconnected. Nathaniel stood there for a long time. He already knew the answer. Why did he have to ask? Yes, how could she ever forgive him? He wandered the streets, dazed. A girl was selling a bouquet of vibrant pink roses. He must have been very drunk. He started to think this was all a nightmare. His home was still there, and Isabel was waiting for him. She loved these pink flowers. He would just have to coax her a little, and she would forgive him. He bought the entire flower basket. He was going home. He took a few steps in the direction of his home, and then a speeding car hit him. Warm blood sprayed onto the roses, like the warm heart of an 18-year-old boy. Nathaniel's parents had other children, and after he had accumulated so much debt, they had mostly cut ties with him. So, in the end, it was I who arranged for his body to be collected. I wasn't burying the 32-year-old man who had betrayed me, but the 17-year-old boy who had run towards me with a bouquet of flowers. He never knew that the reason I loved pink roses so much was because they were the first flowers he ever gave me, but it didn't matter anymore. My life will never be just one kind of flower.